In a dimly lit chamber, a brilliant mind paces restlessly, shackled not by iron, but by invisible chains of disregard. Meanwhile, atop a grand throne sits a fool, clueless yet beaming with misplaced confidence, commanding attention without merit. This striking image captures a paradox as old as power itself. Intelligence confined and obedience demanded, while superficial authority basks in the spotlight. Around us, in meeting rooms, family gatherings, and workplaces, the loudest, simplest voices often drown out nuanced thought. The deep thinkers, the quiet strategists, find themselves sidelined, their insights lost amid the clamor. Why does this happen? Why are the wisest silenced, while the foolish are crowned? Is this a tragic flaw in how power operates, or is it, in fact, an intentional design? These questions cut to the core of human dynamics and governance. The tension between appearance and reality, between the noise of certainty and the subtlety of truth, has long shaped societies and leaders alike. Niccolò Machiavelli, the keen observer of power's mechanics, offers a piercing insight. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you truly are. This observation reveals a fundamental truth about power. It rewards those who project confidence and decisiveness, not necessarily those who hold deeper wisdom or truth. In the realm of authority, performance and certainty often eclipse intelligence and honesty, creating a landscape where appearance can be more influential than substance. Understanding this dynamic is key to unraveling why the world often elevates the foolish and silences the wise. The nature of power and stupidity. Power, contrary to common belief, does not necessarily favor wisdom or intelligence. Instead, it often rewards obedience and confidence, creating a paradox where the smartest individuals may find themselves sidelined. This unsettling dynamic emerges from the psychological and social intricacies of how power operates in human systems. At the heart of this paradox lies the Dunning-Kruger effect, a cognitive bias where people with limited knowledge or skill tend to overestimate their competence, while those who are truly knowledgeable often doubt themselves. This means that in power games, those with less insight display greater confidence, making them more likely to assert themselves, be heard, and thus gain influence. Conversely, intelligent individuals, aware of complexities and uncertainties, approach decisions with caution and self-questioning, which can be perceived as weakness or indecision. Humans have a deep craving for certainty, especially in chaotic or unpredictable environments. This craving makes it easier to follow leaders who exude absolute confidence, even if they lack wisdom. Certainty offers psychological comfort and a sense of safety, reducing anxiety amid disorder. Consequently, people often prefer straightforward, assertive figures who might actually be fools over nuanced thinkers who acknowledge the limits of their knowledge. Intelligence, paradoxically, punishes itself in this environment. The gifted tend to overthink, weigh moral implications, and hesitate before making decisions. Their awareness of nuance and ethical considerations slows them down, making them less effective in quick, high-stakes power struggles. This moral and intellectual depth, admirable in other contexts, becomes a liability in arenas where confidence and obedience are currency. In summary, the nature of power reveals a tragic irony. It elevates those who act with certainty regardless of wisdom, while sidelining the intelligent who hesitate and doubt. The psychological twist of the Dunning-Kruger effect compounds this, fueling the rise of overconfident fools and the fall of thoughtful geniuses. Ultimately, The human desire for certainty and simplicity in leadership means that power does not reward intellect, but rather the appearance of confidence, often at the expense of true insight. Historical and modern examples. Throughout history, the battle between truth, ethics, and nuanced thinking versus loud certainty, charisma, and ruthless ambition has played out repeatedly. These conflicts highlight how society often gravitates toward confident simplicity over complex reality, and how charisma and noise can sometimes overshadow ethics and truth. Socrates versus populist leaders. Truth versus loud certainty. Socrates, the classical Greek philosopher, represents the archetype of relentless pursuit of truth through questioning and reasoned dialogue. He challenged the popular beliefs of Athens, exposing contradictions and ignorance. His method was nuanced, humble, and rooted in the idea that true knowledge comes from recognizing one's own ignorance. In contrast, populist leaders, both ancient and modern, often succeed by projecting unwavering confidence and offering simple, clear-cut answers to complex problems. Their loud certainty can drown out reasoned debate. Socrates' fate, execution for corrupting the youth, and disrespecting traditional values demonstrates the peril of nuanced truth in a society that prefers certainty and easy answers, no matter how false. This dynamic remains visible today, where public discourse is often polarized between deep critical thinking and populist simplifications that appeal to emotion and tribal identity. Tesla versus Edison. Visionary thinker versus charismatic promoter. The rivalry between Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison in the late 19th and early 20th centuries illustrates the clash between visionary innovation and charismatic promotion. Tesla was a brilliant inventor and forward thinker, focused on advancing electrical technology, with a long-term vision of wireless power and alternating current. Edison, while also an inventor, was a master promoter and businessman who aggressively marketed his direct current system and his inventions. Edison's charisma and public relations savvy helped him dominate the market, even as Tesla's technologies were often more advanced. This case highlights how charisma, strategic communication, and the ability to create a compelling narrative can outweigh technical genius. Tesla's complex ideas required understanding and patience, but Edison's confident simplicity and self-promotion won the day. Cicero versus Caesar. Ethics and law versus ruthless ambition. In the political arena of ancient Rome, Cicero and Julius Caesar embody the tension between principled ethics and ruthless ambition. Cicero, a statesman and orator, championed the rule of law, republican ideals, and moral integrity. He used reasoned argument and appeals to justice to defend the republic against tyranny. Caesar, on the other hand, represented bold ambition and decisive action. His rise to power was marked by military conquest and political cunning, often sidelining the republican traditions Cicero valued. Caesar's charisma and decisiveness rallied popular support, even as he undermined legal norms. Ultimately, Cicero's principled stance was unable to match Caesar's forceful leadership and populist appeal, illustrating how ethical complexity can be overwhelmed by bold, simple, and ruthless power. Modern parallels. The same themes recur in modern times, revealing how society continues to wrestle with the tension between truth, ethics, and nuance versus charisma, noise, and simplification. Elizabeth Holmes and the Cult of Confident Deception. Elizabeth Holmes, founder of Theranos, is a modern example of how confident deception can captivate investors, media, and the public. Holmes's charisma, bold promises, and clear narrative about revolutionizing blood testing masked a lack of scientific validity. Her confident simplicity created a cult of personality that overshadowed complex technical scrutiny. Her downfall, exposure, and criminal charges demonstrates the dangers of valuing charisma and noise over rigorous truth, yet also highlights how modern society can be drawn into such cults of confident deception. Populist politicians who simplify, attack nuance, and rise. Many contemporary populist politicians succeed by distilling complex issues into simple slogans, attacking experts and institutions, and appealing directly to emotions and fears. They often reject nuance and scientific consensus, presenting themselves as bold problem solvers with easy answers. This strategy resonates widely, especially in times of uncertainty, because it provides certainty and identity in a chaotic world. The rise of such leaders underscores how charisma and the ability to dominate the conversation with loud, simple messages often outweighs careful policy discussion. The role of charisma and noise. Across history and into the present day, a consistent pattern emerges. Simplicity and boldness often win over complexity and nuance. Charisma, a powerful personal presence, amplifies this effect, enabling leaders and influencers to attract followings even when their claims are questionable or ethically dubious. Noise, in the form of loud certainty, repetition, and clear messaging, drowns out subtler, more complicated truths. In a crowded information environment, this signal-to-noise imbalance favors those who can speak boldly and confidently, rather than those who require patience and reflection to understand. This pattern raises critical questions about how societies value truth and ethics, and how education, media literacy, and institutional integrity can help ensure that complexity and nuance are not permanently silenced by charisma and noise. The system's design. Why fools rise. The ascent of fools to positions of power is rarely a mere accident or anomaly. Rather, it is a consequence embedded deeply within the very design of our social, corporate, and political systems. These systems often prioritize superficial metrics, volume over value, appearance over genuine ability, creating fertile ground for incompetence to flourish. At the core of this phenomenon is the system's preference for quantity rather than quality. In many organizations, success is measured by how loudly one speaks, how many meetings one commands, or how many reports one generates, rather than the substance and impact of their contributions. This emphasis on volume rewards those who master the art of visibility and self-promotion, rather than those who quietly deliver meaningful results. Appearance and charisma become the currency for advancement, while true skill and insight are overlooked or even resented. This dynamic creates what can be described as a fortress of incompetence. Those who lack competence are not only tolerated, but actively protected by surrounding themselves with yes men, people who offer blind allegiance instead of constructive criticism. Independent thinkers and challengers of the status quo are purged or marginalized, ensuring that no dissent threatens the fragile egos of those at the top. By insulating themselves in echo chambers, fools maintain their positions and avoid accountability, further weakening the organization or system as a whole. Moreover, this culture of protectionism and fear trickles down through what can be called a pyramid of submission. Mediocrity is passed down the hierarchy as a defensive strategy to shield fragile leaders from uncomfortable truths and challenging ideas. Subordinates learn quickly that conformity and deference are rewarded, while initiative and critical thinking are punished. Over time, this creates a self-perpetuating cycle, where each level of the hierarchy guards its own interests by suppressing talent and innovation, all in the name of preserving fragile power structures. The effects of this design are devastating and far-reaching. In corporations, innovation is crushed as employees become disengaged and risk-averse. In politics, critical voices are silenced, enabling poor leadership and policy failures. The media, too, often rewards sensationalism over substance, undermining public trust. Even within families, this dynamic can manifest as the elevation of superficial authority figures and the suppression of honest communication. Ultimately, the system's design ensures that fools rise and thrive not despite their incompetence, but because the structures they inhabit enable and protect it. Recognizing and dismantling these systemic flaws is essential if we hope to foster environments where true ability, integrity, and critical thinking can flourish. The crowd's role. Why we enable fools. At the heart of many social and political failures lies a psychological truth. People often crave reassurance more than they seek truth. When confronted with uncertainty, individuals experience discomfort and a deep desire for cognitive closure, the urge to resolve ambiguity swiftly, even if it means embracing falsehoods. This psychological tendency makes it easier to accept oversimplified, comforting narratives rather than grapple with complex, nuanced realities. Choosing to be fooled in this sense is a psychological shortcut. Faced with the overwhelming complexity of the world, many prefer the illusion of certainty. It requires less mental energy and provides immediate emotional relief. The human mind naturally gravitates toward clear, decisive answers, even if they are misleading or outright wrong. This preference creates fertile ground for charismatic figures who offer bold, simple messages that bypass critical thinking. Culture plays a significant role in shaping these dynamics. Society often praises boldness over wisdom. Loud, confident voices capture attention and admiration, while careful, measured reasoning frequently goes unnoticed or is dismissed as indecisiveness. In politics and media alike, the loudest narratives tend to dominate public discourse, winning hearts and votes not by accuracy, but by emotional appeal. This cultural bias reinforces a feedback loop. The crowd rewards certainty and confidence, which encourages leaders and influencers to prioritize spectacle over substance. The result is a collective enabling of fools, those who exploit the crowd's desire for simplicity and reassurance to advance agendas built on shaky foundations. Ultimately, the crowd's role is not just passive, it is active in its willingness to enable folly. Understanding this psychological and cultural interplay is crucial to breaking the cycle. Only by cultivating a collective tolerance for complexity, ambiguity, and uncomfortable truths can society hope to resist the allure of foolhardy leaders and embrace wiser, more thoughtful guidance. The cost of intelligence and morality. Intelligence often comes with a moral burden that can hinder success in a competitive world. This moral handicap arises because intelligent individuals tend to adhere to ethical standards, which limit their actions. In contrast, those lacking wisdom frequently exploit any means necessary to advance, disregarding fairness or integrity. This fundamental difference highlights why intelligent people sometimes hold themselves back, while others play dirty without remorse. At the heart of this dilemma lies the tension between fairness and ruthlessness. The intelligent and ethical hesitate, carefully weighing the consequences of their decisions. They consider not only the immediate benefits, but also the long-term impacts on relationships and reputations. Conversely, fools or those less reflective act impulsively, seizing opportunities regardless of the harm they might cause. This reckless behavior may yield quick gains, making ruthlessness appear more effective in achieving short-term success. However, this paradox is deeply dangerous. In a system dominated by ruthless competition, integrity becomes a liability rather than an asset. When ethical standards are the exception rather than the norm, those who maintain their principles risk losing out or being exploited. This harsh reality forces intelligent individuals into a difficult position: either compromise their values or face setbacks that their less scrupulous counterparts avoid. The cost of intelligence and morality, therefore, is a profound one. While intelligence equips individuals with foresight and ethical sensitivity, it simultaneously restricts their capacity to act without restraint. The result is a fragile balance, where morality can be a stumbling block in environments that reward opportunism. Yet, abandoning integrity often leads to long-term consequences that surpass immediate success. Ultimately, this tension challenges the notion of what it means to be truly wise and successful in a world where ethics and survival frequently clash. The wake-up call and conclusion. The moment of awakening strikes like a lightning bolt. The genius, long committed to mastery and excellence, suddenly sees the harsh truth. The system is rigged. Competence, skill, and effort, the very qualities that should command respect and reward, are sidelined, ignored, or even punished. The realization is painful but clear. Meritocracy is a myth. The ladder of success is crooked, leaning toward those who play the game by different rules, those who bend or break, those who embrace ignorance as armor. Faced with this bitter truth, the genius stands at a crossroads. To kneel is easy. Accept the status quo, blend in, and obey the unspoken rules that favor complacency and conformity. But to rise is harder, to resist, to question, to challenge the very foundation of the system. It is a choice between silence and voice, between invisibility and defiance. Understanding the system is the first step toward change. Awareness fuels resolve. The genius must nurture the fire of intelligence, not let it be extinguished by frustration or despair. To keep thinking, questioning, and innovating is an act of rebellion. It is the spark that can illuminate hidden truths and reveal new paths forward. Yet, the final irony remains. The fool rises not despite his ignorance, but because of it. Oblivious to the barriers and complexities, the fool stumbles forward, often rewarded for his naivete. But the real power, the power to rewrite the rules, to shift the balance, rests with the awakened genius. The one who sees the game clearly, who understands both its flaws and possibilities, holds the key to transformation. The challenge is immense, but so is the potential. The system may be rigged, but the future is not yet written. The awakened genius must decide to accept the game as it is, or to change it forever.